folks, welcome back to Namibia Africa. This is Chris once again. Hey folks, welcome back to Chris Wyatt Africa here on the Namibia Africa channel. Tonight broadcasting on an alternate platform. Some of you may be aware of that, some of you may not be. But my special featured guest tonight is none other than the head coach of the Seattle Seawolves. I don't really know what a Seawolf is, but I got a good guess at what it is. But the Seattle Seawolves, and that's Kees Lensing, who's from Namibia. So Kees, welcome in.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
It's my pleasure. And listen, you have the distinction of being my first head coach for Major League Rugby. I've interviewed players from Major League Rugby, but I've never had a chance for head coach. So what better place to start with the head coach of the two-time defending Major League Rugby champion Seattle Seawolves?
Thanks a lot. It's big boots to fill for us here, and I like everyone say there's a big target on our backs, and we would like to keep the trophy down here or up here in the northwest. So and it's not going to be easy. I know all the teams is really wanting the trophy down wherever they are. So yeah, we're looking forward to the season.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, there were no teams on the East Coast when Major League Rugby got started, and I just come back from Ethiopia where I was stationed, so I had to look around. I picked Utah that first season, and then they got a team in New York, and you can't tell James Kennedy or anybody from Rooney this, but because I know that you were supposed, but you can't tell them this. I don't like New York franchises. It's a stretch, but I became a Rooney fan. They know that I'm a Rooney fan. So a little hard for me to root for Seattle because they're breaking our hearts out. They're winning it twice in a row. But nonetheless, we're excited to have you on and talk to you about it today. So let's get a little bit into it right away. So you are from Namibia. I don't think many people know that.
Yeah, no, born there, grew up there. Had most of my, I would say, my grassroots of rugby started in Namibia, and then when the country got independent in '89, my parents decided rather to take me down to South Africa. So I finished my school career down in Upington, that's just across the border for us. So that's where everything started for me.
Well, in fact, you've played quite a bit. If I recall your professional career, you played for like 6 different clubs. You played in France, you played in South Africa, and you also played Currie Cup. You played Super Rugby. You played for the Cheetahs. You wound up playing for the Blue Bulls. You wound up playing for the Sharks. Why not Western Province? I feel cheated.
I went down to Stellenbosch to go and study in Stellenbosch, and personally, I was a Lions supporter my whole life, but I never got opportunity to play for the Lions. I didn't play for the Cheetahs, and we were scouted. I was fortunate enough to be in a really good.
It was the Griffins you played for. You played for the Griffins.
Yes. Yeah. So Steph Nell, he scouted us. I was fortunate enough to be in a really good university team. And he gave a lot of our young guys an opportunity to go and play Currie Cup. And we were like 19 years old. And like 2 years ago, I remember Oosterrand was still hanging on my dorm on the wall. I had a big poster of Oosterrand. And then literally 2 years later, this guy come out of the closet and he said to me, Kees, you're going to play Currie Cup. And you're going to play against Oosterrand. And you're going to play against all these other big names. And it was like unbelievable. It's just like a dream come true. And that's where everything started for us. So, I was fortunate enough to play in so many teams. I would say the biggest reason why I moved around so much was in my position, I kind of like always chased the money or the better financial position because I knew my career was only a certain amount of years. And that was the main reason why I decided to move every time for a better team. Was it the right thing to do? Yeah, looking back at it, now that I'm a coach, I think it was because now I have so much more experience being coached by so many coaches. So I can take all the good stuff from all those coaches that I picked all over the world, and hopefully I can translate it back to the kids that I'm throwing, or the players that I'm coaching now.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting approach. It's not the same sort of thing, but in the U.S. Army, we move our folks around frequently. They do tours in one location, they go to a different part of the world, different part of the country, and it forces people to adapt. It forces them to learn new ways. It also keeps the same sort of ethos is there, and the values are consistent, and same in rugby. But you learn from different people, and you develop and mature as a person. Sounds to me like you took the right approach, and you realized that was something very profitable for your career to actually do that.
Yeah, you at the moment when you're doing it, you had different standards and different reasons for doing some decisions. But like I said, there's always a longer plan in each and every one of our lives. And now that I'm a coach, I'm now going for my 12th year in coaching, and I look back at my years before, I definitely think that was the better way to do it. Because if I played the rest of my career, where I had probably my best rugby was at the Bulls on the Heineken Meyer, I would have only knew the Heineken way, or I would only knew the Bulls way. But I was fortunate enough to be at the Sharks with a John Plumtree. I was fortunate enough to play in France under a Mark McCall that took Saracens to be one of the best teams in the world. I was fortunate enough to go and coach in Japan. So, and I think with all that, with a coach nowadays, it also gives you that exposure to know different cultures, know different people, and you have to be able to communicate with all those different cultures and people in a team.
Absolutely. No, it's the same sort of thing. You know, you move around. In my career in the Army, I was stationed in 8 different countries in Africa, 3 tours in Germany, 1 in Italy, combat in Southwest Asia, the Balkans, and a few places in the States as well, the Pentagon. So you get around, you learn from different people, you incorporate those things. I think that's brilliant. So in your play career, though, you had some really interesting stuff. You said, did you actually play against Os? Did you actually, I mean, did you compete against him?
Yes, so so just a little bit of feedback. Like I was in my grade 12, we call it still matric back then.
Yep.
We went to there was like what do you call it? Like a training summer camp down in Mossel Bay. And I remember Tox van der Linde that played for the Stormers. Tox was there and he was coaching us. And my first year for the Griffins, I was literally 20 years old. We play against the Stormers. Obviously, we didn't have the result that we wanted to have. And he looked at me and he said to me, "Hey, Boetman, what are you doing here?" I said to him, "No, in Afrikaans, I said, nee, oom, ek wil rugby speel." So, and he literally coached me 2 years ago as a schoolboy in Mossel Bay. And then I was just fortunate, like literally 3 years later, I was playing against him Currie Cup. And Os retired for a couple of years, and then he came back. And so I played against Os but Os was also a loosehead. But there was a stage in Os's life that they try and make him, especially when he came back, that they wanted him to play tight head. And I remember, I think I was down at Port Elizabeth playing for the EP Kings. Back then it was called the Mighty Elephants. And I know we went to some rural place, and we played against the Cheetahs there, and Os was on tight head, and I had the opportunity to play against Os. And it was like, for me, it was like massive. And then even before, I think it was before the 2004, 2007 World Cup, we played against the Springboks at Newlands. And again, that day, Os was playing. Os was trying. That was just before they won the World Cup again. And again, Namibia, we didn't have the result that we wanted it, but I actually got Os de Rand's jersey, Springbok jersey from that day. And that's probably one of my most valuable. I played a couple of test matches for Namibia, 2 World Cups, but that jersey of Os de Rand that we played against that day, and although the result wasn't in our favor, that's probably my most valuable jersey that I have in my closet.
No, that's awesome to hear. It's he's a big oak. I mean, it's a big guy. That's you know, you're never going to find me near the scrum. I'm out on the wing. I can't get in there. It's just no way. But a pretty interesting story there that you share with us. You know, now you played for the Namibia national side, and in case you may not have been able to see on the camera, let me stand up and show you what I'm doing.
No. I saw as soon as you switched it on. Great jersey, great country, and thanks a lot for the support.
No, it's fantastic. Listen, I'm a Springbok fan first. I have been since 1984. Expose my age a little bit there, but I was introduced to rugby at university, and we didn't have a national side in '82 when I was at university. So as a history student, I'm like, who can I support? And I looked at all the great teams around the world, and I looked at South Africa had a long history, and I already had an interest in Africa, and so I said, I'll be a Springbok fan. Could never watch it; it wasn't on TV or anything like that, but I became a fan and followed the sport, and have been a Springbok fan ever since. Of course, we got a U.S. national side in '84. But I became a Welwitscha fan after my first visit to Namibia a while back, and huge fan of Jacques Borger. Oh man, I'm a huge fan. I tried to drop a little hint in the ear of the ownership team from Rooney to try to lure him out of retirement to play a season at Rooney. I thought that'd be awesome. But anyway.
Yeah, I know Jacques was amazing. So when I was captain, Jacques was just coming into the scene as well. And as soon as I finished as the Namibian captain, Jacques took over. And Jacques was, again, like, it's so funny that in South Africa, Jock struggled really to get through the ranks and get really recognized. But then as soon as he got to the UK, they really realized his value, and he had an unbelievable, I think, career in the UK, and he built this name for him. And yeah, just one of the players that I know in my career that had no respect for his own body. Like, he definitely, that guy, one of the toughest and hardest players ever, I think, that I know, that I've met. So I have so many little stories about Jock. Great guy, great guy. He's trying to do the farming thing in Namibia, and yeah, I follow him. We're still good friends. And yeah, we had a tough year as well before all the droughts, but luckily this year in Namibia, very fortunate. We have exceptional rains this last season, and yeah, it's looking good for him again.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. If he's doing the farming in Namibia, it's been a bonanza of rainfall the last 2 months. It's been quite a bit. Riverbeds have been dry for ages or full, and little flash floods everywhere. That's not desirable, but still recharging the water table. And I saw satellite photographs of Namibia, and it's the normal brown and dusty color. And then you watch it from late January to the beginning of February, and suddenly it just all blooms green all over in that high plateau there. Amazing stuff. So you played for the Welwitschas. You were actually the captain for like 3 years or 3 seasons, something like that. And you played, I think, 24 test matches for them. What was that like representing your home country? It's got to be awesome.
No, that's honestly, it's one of my proudest moments in my whole career. That was this. And even a lot of people kind of judged me, and I said I should have never played for Namibia, but it's my country. I was born there. I'm not disappointed, or I don't regret one day that I stepped on the field for Namibia. And again, we didn't always win to the World Cups, and we always, up until now, we're still looking for that first win in the World Cup for us. I thought this last World Cup in Japan, we had a really good opportunity, but again,
Canada. Yeah, they're going to win at Canada. I predicted it, and then Hagibis wiped out that game.
Yes, so I thought and the team is still growing, and I thought Phil Davis was doing great. I actually, when I went to England for the one season, Phil was my coach down in England at the Leeds Stakes. So no, for Namibia, definitely one of my proudest moments. I started off a little bit late for them, also luckily, because when I was down at the EP Kings, a second rower, Heino Senekal, that played for Namibia already since probably 97, 98, he played with me down there, and he said to me, hey, but you're born Namibian, you can play for Namibia. And that's how I got introduced, because I was because I left Namibia so early, I was a little bit off the radar back then. But then I got the opportunity in 2002 to go and play for Namibia, and that just put me on the map. And actually, if I didn't play for Namibia, I would have never got, I think, the opportunity to play for the Bulls, because Namibia played in 2002 for the World Cup preparations of 2003. We played against the South African side, and it was all the guys that was on the either ex-Springboks or guys that was on the verge of going into the Springbok. And I think back then, 2003 World Cup, I think Rudolf Australia, I can't remember who was the Springbok coaching staff back then, but they wanted to give these guys, and that was like Tinus Delport, Dale Santons, all the big names like Pedri Vandenberg, all those guys played in that Springbok team. Derek Hougaard, I remember he was the fly-off, and he kicked the winning points that day. And I had a really great day that day on the field. And JJ Harms, one of the news reporters back then, I think he's just working for the Springboks, but back then I think he still worked for the Volksblad. Mm-hmm. And he wrote an article in the report, the Sunday Times or whatever, Sunday newspaper. And Heineke, I thought he and JJ was somehow connected. And that's how I got my break, literally. I didn't even know JJ was there. And just because of that one game that I had really good, I know I scrummed against Kobus Versage that day. That was also, had a lot of games for South Africa. And that was the game that literally gave me. And then I think as soon as I got back to Port Elizabeth the Wednesday, Heineke phoned me out of the blue, and he said to me, hey, I want you to come and play for the Bulls. Long story short, I went to Alistair Coetzee because he was my coach back in EP Kings. And I said to him, Coach, if he offered me something, I didn't even know how much money I can get. So, and Alistair gave me kind of a guidelines, and they flew me up the Wednesday, and I had the opportunity to go and play for the Bulls for 2 seasons. And that's actually where my whole career started off, and that's how things go forward.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Now, Loftus is a fascinating place. I've been there for many games. Also for the FIFA World Cup, I was there and watched the game. It was pretty interesting. But did you enjoy playing at Loftus? I mean, it's getting kind of long in the tooth, but that was a few years ago, so maybe it wasn't quite as long in the tooth and old a stadium.
Again, like I was fortunate enough when the Bulls was just on the way up. 2003, they won the first Currie Cup after quite a long drought, a couple of years. And again, like our forward pack was the Richard Bands, Gary Botha, Dani Kutsia, Bakkies Botha, Victor Matfield, all of them Springboks. We had Jacques Rousseau, like I said, Pedro Vandenberg. We had Dani Rousseau there. That's probably the best pack of forwards that I've ever played in my whole life with. And again, if you play with that quality of players, it's just so easy to perform, and you can just focus on your strengths. And that was also one thing that was good about Heineke. Heineke didn't expect you to do things that was out of your nature. He get you for a reason, and he just wanted you to execute your job. And because there was enough talent around you to do the other things. We had the Etienne Botas that was flashy. We had the Fourie Preus. We had the Derek Houkaerts that could kick any place. And line-out balls, we had the Victor Matfields to make sure we win all our line-out balls. And for physicality, we had like I said, the Dani Rousseaus and the Bakkies Botas to make sure there's enough physicality in the pack. So it was unbelievable. Still, up until today, probably one of the best things. I remember when you run out of Loftus and you couldn't see the daisy on the open stands, then we know, hey, there's a big crowd today behind us, and it's just a blue wave. No, best supporters in the country, really. And that's why I can't wait for COVID to get cleaned off and so that we can just fill up Loftus again, because I think Jake White at the moment is doing a great job at Loftus again. Yeah, unbelievable job.
No doubt about it. In fact, as a Western Province and Stormers fan, I cringed when the Bulls, and I didn't really cringe, but I knew we were in trouble. I knew that everyone else in trouble when Jake White was signed to come up there and sort it out. And I also saw some of the signings bringing some former players back from Europe to play, and I was like, watch the Bulls. Now, we didn't know the season was going to be so messed up and split in two, but it really doesn't matter. They really put it on a pitch, and they did a great job. And Jake White's done, I think, an amazing job there. And the Bulls are back. They're back. I mean, but wow, the time you talk about though, that was just unbelievable. There was some amazing teams back then. It was something else. They just had a great run for a while there. The Bulls, just amazing.
Yeah, 2004 we won the Currie Cup down there, and then 2005 was the probably an unlucky day for us. We were far ahead that game, and then at the end, Meyer Bosman scored it was a fair try. There was a miscommunication, and he scored, and the Cheetahs won that day. That was a sad day, because that was also my last game in South Africa for the Bulls, because then I went to England after that. But probably the two of the best years of my whole rugby career down there. Yeah.
But you came back to South Africa because you played for the Sharks later after that, right?
Yeah. When I went to England to join Phil Davis, that was coaching Namibia now for a couple of years, I got a little bit late there in the season, arriving to Leeds Tykes. Difficult season, really tough conditions, cold, wet, England weather.
England.
So we just missed the cutoff. So we got relegated at the end of that season, and I had an option to go even to London Irish, where Dani Kutsia was at that stage, and Van Rautenbach was there, and that was really one of the ways that I wanted to go. But Rudolf was on my case. Rudolf Strali was then, I think, director of rugby down at the Sharks, and Rudolf. He's a good manipulator. He bought me a ticket after 3 months in the cold down to Durban, had a nice barbecue, speak Afrikaans with me, and the money was also very competitive. And I said to my wife back then, I said to her, listen here, the weather is perfect. We're close to your family. There's sunshine here that I haven't seen for 3 months. And the people
I'm laughing, but that's a true statement.
and the people are speaking Afrikaans because my Namibian English is always a little bit of a difficult thing. I think it improved a little bit over the years, but the English was a little bit of a barrier for me in England. So Rudolf lured me back to the Sharks, and was it the right decision from my side? I think it was not bad because I had to, at least I experienced John Plumtree and Dick Meer, the way they coach, and again from Heineke, that was very organized and very disciplined and all that stuff. When you went down to Durban, they much more relaxed. They the surfer attitude. They take things as it comes. They adjust every day. So, and I had to experience that as well, and that was adapting for me. And there, actually, I realized, listen here, these guys want you to do much more on the field than just what I was asked for me from the Bulls. So there I had to start catching the ball, passing the ball, actually running with the ball a little bit more. Where at the Bulls, there was your job description was just so much more simple. So I think as a rugby player, I also developed a little bit there. But then with the 2007 World Cup coming up, and I was captain, so that put took a lot of time away from me. And Beast Materia was just coming through the ranks. And in the old days, we didn't have 23 guys on the bench. We only had the 22 guys. So there was only one prop on the bench, and that prop needed to play tight and loose head usually. So, and I wasn't versatile enough. And with me being away a lot with Namibia, I just fell out of favor a little bit there, and I didn't have enough game plan or game time. So, and then the opportunity came to go to France. So, and that's how we decided to move to France. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and he played in the top 14 there. That's also a very, very different experience. Of course, we've seen a lot of top South African players particularly go there. Mornay Sten, Brian Habana have played there. Many others have played. What's it like playing in France? Was that? How was that?
That was, I must say, that was probably, except for the Bulls on the field was unbelievable. The results we got, all the success we got, but living conditions for me in the south of France. I stayed in a little town called Cast. It's not that little. I think it's about 80,000 people. Was unbelievable. The best in my whole 11 years of professional, the best place to stay. The people were so passionate about it. When you win on the weekend, Monday is a pleasure to be in town. Like literally, you'll get your coffee for free. You'll sometimes get your lunch for free.
A beer.
Yes. So no, unbelievable place. The supporters was great. For years. Year one, Mark McCall was there from the Saracens, and then it moved on a little bit, and we eventually got Laurent Lebitte and Laurent Travers, and the one is now with the French national team, and the other guy is the coach for Racing Metro. So great coaches. Like I learned so much from those two coaches, and what was really interesting about that team is we had 19 different nationalities in that group of players there, and it was unbelievable to see how they used simple things to gel us, to become a family and to work and to play together. No, South of France was amazing. It's hard physical rugby. They play a lot of rugby every year. They will easily play 5 warm-up games, and then they got all the regular season games. Tough competition, but again, I had the opportunity to play with guys like Carl Hoff that had a lot of games for the All Blacks. There was a lot of All Blacks in that team. There was a lot of like Steve Keffos, guys that played for Australia, high quality guys. You walk into a team and there's so much talent around you that you really had to work hard to keep your position in the team. And that was, for me, was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That had to be amazing. That's why I was curious about that. But you said that you, of course, you play for the Bulls, you play for Heineke Meyer. I'll confess, huge fan. I loved it when he was Springboks coach. Unfortunately, the loss at Brighton didn't help. But that was a heck of a game against Japan. Eddie Jones had a great game plan that day. That was a game I was at. It was unbelievable in the England 2015 World Cup. But the reason I mentioned Heineke is his coaching style is very different than, say, somebody like Alistair. You know, it's very different style. But I take it you've probably brought all of those different coaching styles. You learned from all those coaches. And when you began coaching, that I'm guessing that probably played a role in how you did things. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. You learn from each one of them. And I would say probably one thing about the game have evolved so much. The game got so much professional from where we started off playing. Because when we started off playing, you had one forwards coach, and he did scrums, lineouts, breakdowns, everything, and you had maybe a backline coach. We were fortunate enough at the Bulls back then. We had a speed coach called Henny Kriel, and then we had a really, I think, still one of the best S&C coaches in the world, Basil Karsus. He was an amazing. I think a lot of the Bulls' success up until all over those years was definitely to do with Basil's involvement and getting us fit and getting us strong. Hey, we were great players. There was definitely a lot of superheroes and great players there, but Basil's input was unbelievable. No, Heineke, definitely, I liked his organization. It was because the way that a lot of the guys been brought up in the old days, military dads, usually the dads was in my age actually, those dads were somehow involved in military before with the border war in Namibia. So most of us had quite strict brought up, and I think Heineke's way of coaching was what definitely suited that era. But nowadays the game has evolved so much, and you get different players, and kids react a little bit different to those type of structures these days. And we needed to adapt. And even and that's why when you go to France, it's a total different culture than you go to England. And even in Japan, again, is a total different culture, because I had the opportunity to coach in Japan for 3 years. So, and for me, probably there's definitely some stuff, like I said, all the good stuff you want to incorporate from all the coaches that you coached with. But probably the biggest thing for me as a coach that I always try to be as straight and as forward with my players as possible. And it's not always easy, but I felt, because that was the things that was really hurtful for me, if a coach wasn't always honest with me. Like, he can butter you up there in his room where you're by yourself, but as soon as you're out there, then it doesn't show on the field. Or when he picked the team, he doesn't really be honest with you. And that's probably one of the things that I try and, for me as a coaching, I always want to be straightforward and honest with my players. They must know exactly why I stand with them. What is the reasons why I don't pick him in my first 15 and going forward. And then obviously family, you need to play for each other. As soon as you start playing for yourself, it just doesn't work in a team environment. So you need to play for each other. If guys look after each other, if they care about each other, and I think that was really good about when we had the Bulls. If players care about each other, they're going to be friends forever, but they will be friends on the field, but also off the field. And that was really important for me, things that I want to, as a coach, incorporate into my teams going forward.
No, I think that's a great point, and that's one of the reasons why I love rugby. Soccer, football, you can have prima donnas that run around out there. It's all about their ego and their big contracts, and the same thing in American football, same sort of thing, basketball, NBA, but you really can't get that in rugby. You've got to be a family, you got to be a team, you got to work as a unit out there. And even if you have a great team, that doesn't mean you're gonna have great success. England had a lot of talent, and Stuart Lancaster is a really good coach, but that team that crashed out of the World Cup, and then Eddie Jones came along and they tied the record for consecutive victories. He just turned it all around. To me, that's one of the perfect examples. And you follow Eddie Jones' career when he was in Japan, everywhere he's been, he turns a team into winners or makes them better at what they're at. And it's not like it's a 3 or 5 year plan. He manages to pull it off pretty darn quickly. I don't know if he has super steroids that makes him the best coach or whatever, but the point I'm trying to make here is that a coach can make all the difference in the world. You can have a very talented team like England had and crash out of the World Cup and then come around and be world beaters just like that. Coaching is that important in rugby. Would you agree?
Coaching is, and again, like you as a coach, you can, I think, in a team success, all these things that I said now is important, but and most of the coaches, if they're really honest, is if a team have a good spirit and if a team have confidence, you can have actually a kind of like an average team, but if that team believe in themselves and they have a lot of confidence, you can beat massive big teams. And that's I think that's the challenge for all of us as coaches. And I think that's where Eddie is so good. First of all, to have confidence, you have to be really good prepared. You need to know exactly what you talk about. Players need to have clarity about what you expect from them, and that gives confidence. So if players feel that that they are good prepared and we have covered all the bases, there's no uncertainties, then it's so much easier to have confidence. And then if a team has confidence in themselves, it just lifts the barrier, like I would say a couple of percent. 15, 20%. Literally a team play above his normal game. So confidence is unbelievably necessary. And the first time I really saw that was in France. That's why I believe your first game of a season, if you can win your first game of a season, you already on the right path. Mm-hmm. But if you lose your first game, the second game is harder. If you lose your second game, then you go down in the spiral thing. And it's just so much, it just puts so much more pressure on the team, on the coaches, and on the players to get out of that hole that they kind of like, it just make them like shrink, and they actually don't play out to their possibilities and their whatever they can do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Folks, you're listening to Chris Wyatt Africa on an alternate platform tonight. My special feature guest is Kees Lensing. He is a former prop from Namibia, played all over the world in South Africa, Currie Cup, Super Rugby, played in the UK, played in France, played all over the world. And he is now the head coach of the Seattle Seawolves. So now we're going to shift and talk about Major League Rugby. Here we go. Season number 4. Season 1 was 8 games. It was short. The Seawolves won the title. They were 6-2. They won the title, took it, and then the next season, it was the next season was a 16-game season. That was the norm we were going to. They went 12-4, and they won the title again. And I'm trying to remember, that was the San Diego Legion 26-23. That game was unbelievable. I remember watching that game. And then last year, season starts, not so good for the Seawolves. It was looking. I was kind of dancing a little bit because they weren't winning. No, just kidding. No, but it was a 1-4 start, but then COVID came and the season was suspended and we started all over. So here we are starting season 4, and each season the league is built upon itself. The attendance has gone up, the interest got up, the television contracts have come. There were lots of contracts last year with CBS, ESPN, and others, local networks and stuff like that. So there was this momentum, and I don't know if we have the momentum now. So hopefully we do. But what are your thoughts as we get ready to open the season up? You're training with your boys now and getting them ready for the season, which starts already in March. I think it's March 20th is the first game. Yeah. So what are your thoughts as we get ready to start the 4th Major League Rugby season here in the U.S.?
No, I'm very excited. Like, I don't think there's one coach in the world that's not excited just to be back on the field because I've never in my whole life been away from rugby for 8 months, or there's probably more, 10 months, nearly a year. So I think everyone is super excited to be out there. You can see the energy in the boys. Everyone is just super excited to get the season going. Unfortunately, COVID is still around, so there's a lot of red tape that we need to step over and juggle just to get out there and stuff like so. Just preparation wise for us, we're not allowed to have in-class video analyst sessions, so we can't analyze the game as we wanted. So now you have to do everything online. So there's definitely, it makes it difficult, but I think everyone is super excited about the season, and I know as the vaccinations goes on and the season goes on, hopefully these restrictions would get less and less and we can get back to a normal season again. So, but no, really, I just, like we call it, smiles on dials. The guys is just so happy to see on the pitch. Doesn't matter what you do with them. They're just smiling, just happy to be out there. Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to some fans in attendance. DC is going to be allowed to have 1,000 fans at their games. I don't know how many the Seattle's going to be able to have, but I know that the tickets are available. So it's really painful watching rugby in empty venues. You know what I mean? It's just not right. I'm a huge ice hockey fan, and you can get away with that on television by pumping in fake sound and focusing on the ice. It's still not the same, but at least it's entertaining. But watching rugby with empty stadiums, it's like, I don't know, it's like watching the Currie Cup these days.
Yeah, no, I must say, and that's probably one of the biggest things about Seattle. We have unbelievable fans. Our fans is definitely the loudest and the noisiest fans in the league. We were fortunate enough, we have an amazing marketing group, and before COVID, we had, I think, 70% of all the ticket sales in the whole league. Yeah. So Seattle, what that is amazing for us, and that's going to be sad if we can't get the fans back there. But I know we had a bit of a tough draw. For the first 6 weeks of the season, we're going to be on the road. So our first home game will only be on, I think, the 3rd of May, the 2nd of May, and so hopefully by then, as things is moving on now in the country, I think we will be able to have a fair amount of fans back. Probably not full capacity, but I think we will have a fair amount of fans back in the stands. And the fans, they definitely lift the team. Just for us to play at home, they probably lift us also another 10 or 15%. It's just amazing to hear them there and supporting the boys.
No, absolutely. And that's the one thing I definitely have to say about Seattle. The fans have been there from the outset, from get-go. They were there, they're loud, the seats are full. It's an awesome atmosphere. I've been watching on TV. Obviously, I haven't been out in Seattle to watch a game, but it's pretty awesome. And they, that enthusiasm for the game that was just getting started a couple years ago. And then also, to be honest, the Seawolves have a really cool green blue jersey. I like the home jersey. It's really awesome. But it's amazing because there weren't a lot of really big names out there. Whereas Rooney, when it got started, I went to their games and the attendance was okay, but it couldn't match Seattle's. And there were big names in New York. We had Ben Foden there. Last year, Bostero showed up, and then Dylan Fawcett, Mike Petrie, lots of people who are known throughout rugby in USA. But Seattle has some amazing fans. It's unbelievable.
No, I was for a season though. The first year that Rooney was there, I was coaching there, and I've New York's biggest issue is the whole, I would say, the whole transit where the field is based. MCU Park is
Coney Island.
Yeah, it's just far away. Because people that stays in the Bronx, if they want to go to the field, it's a 2-hour train ride for them to get down there. So it's New York, the whole, I would say, transport system is just make things. There's just no space. So I feel for those boys, and they had the names down there, and they definitely probably marketable if any team in New York. It doesn't matter if you know rugby or NFL or basketball. I think marketable, you definitely there must be the easiest marketable team out there. But for them, it's logistics is a massive headache for those the owners. But I think they're going to overcome it. So they got new owners in. I think they got a little bit more money in there, and they will overcome it. We don't have the superstars like the Ben Fodens and the Busteros and those guys. But also, like I said, and those guys are definitely crowd pleasers. At the end of the day, any supporter wants to support a winning team. So it doesn't matter who you have in your team, as long as your team is winning, the supporters are happy. So and that's probably why the Seattle fans is so one of the reasons that they're definitely so passionate and that they fill the stadium so easily. It's always enjoyable to come and have a nice time and walk away from a field where you have been supporting the winning side. So, and hopefully we can continue doing that. And we'll, as long as the fans is happy and we're winning, the coach will be happy and the owners.
yeah. And that's also, it ultimately matters. People forget about that, but no, I agree with you. But just to let you know, for me to go to watch the games at Coney Island, 4-hour drive, $56 in tolls one way. And I went to every home game the first season. That's a bit of commitment there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
So and that's what I was going to touch on. You start the season off kind of brutally. You're on the road. You're traveling for over the first month, and that's going to be tough. You're not the first team to do that. I think Toronto, when they start out, all their first games were on the road too. But I mean, it was like 18 feet of snow in Ontario, so it's understandable why they came down. But what about this? What do you think of the later start? Because not starting in late January, but rather starting in March. Do you think that's going to help the season better? I mean, it's because of COVID, but do you think it's going to help the game because the venues should be better? The winter should be mostly over in most places.
Yeah, no, I think it's hopefully, and again, like, I don't know what the MLR will decide on it. I'm definitely pro shifting the season a little bit further back because it gives us a little bit more preparation time after the holidays. So, and the only I would say a little bit of a downside to that is if you were going to go down to New Orleans in June, July, man, it's humid, it's super hot down there. So that's going to be, again, a challenge for us coming all the way from the coast. So, but that's rugby. I think rugby is not far away from being a 12-month season anyway. So worldwide. So and I think to make it the sooner that World Rugby can decide that they're going to just have one international season, and I know there's a lot of fight about it, I think the sooner all these other things will be sorted out. But I'm definitely happy with moving the season a little bit later in the year. I know there's a little bit of what you call it, a mix-up with international games, international windows. I know Gary and them, they wanted to start like in July. They have some games planned already in July. Our season won't be finished until I think the finals is only in the 1st of August. So, and obviously the team that's going to play in that finals, going to have some of Gary's players in that team. So what's going to be the situation there? So there's going to be definitely some of the big guys and the big names will have to wrap their heads around it. But I'm very pro starting a little bit later and just make it definitely easier for us as coaches.
Now, I don't know. You mentioned earlier talking about playing in France and having this multinational team, all these players from all over. And I don't know how accurate, because I haven't checked your website to see if it's up to date with players. But looking over the roster of players here that are listed, you've got a lot of names from Southern Africa. You got Kotsia from South Africa, Pelzer, Herbst, Hattinga. You've got J.P. Smith, and I noticed there's a Namibian oak on here, Obert Nortie. Is there some kind of is this kind of in the family sort of thing? You're bringing Namibians into Seattle? What's going on there?
No, now the South African guys is obviously with the exchange rate, the dollar-rand exchange rate. That's why it's usually for the South African kids, it's just financially rewarding to come to America. We don't have a big budget. Obviously, our salary cap is quite small, very small comparing to any professional league in the world. So we need to go and look for the best players that we can buy for the littlest possible money. And that's why the South African guys is willing to come here. And it's also not a year-round contract. It's only for 6 or 7 months. So, and that helped a lot. So the kids can come here, he can play 6 months here, and he can still, if it's good enough, or if his agent get him something, he can still go and play in Japan maybe, or he can still go back home and he can still play maybe Currie Cup back in South Africa. So some of the teams is looking at having like a shared player, like so the player will play the first 6 months of the year in America, and the last 6 months of the year he will go back and play in South Africa. And that's just to cut costs, because not just here in America and South Africa, all actually rugby worldwide, everyone is on a big strain with this whole COVID and sponsorships and stuff that, and we need to make it the best world for the players as well. So so the South African kids that's here, obviously they're here for their abilities. They grew up with rugby. That's a little bit where we need to change American rugby still. A lot of the players that you get now is only literally start playing the game when they're done with college, and they didn't get drafted from their football team. Like a lot of the guys, and there's so much talent in this country, it's unbelievable. I just hope we can catch them when they're 14 years old, or when they're like even 12 years old, because then their rugby IQ would be so much higher by the time they get out of university. So that's the main reason. But like we have actually a fair amount. We got some Australian guys, we got the Argentinian guys, we got Brad Tucker is from New Zealand. So we got some New Zealand, we got Irish kids, and we're going to have a Scottish guy as well in there. And we got the two England guys. So we got also quite a big variety of players from all over the world.
No, so I was looking here: American Samoa, England, Ireland, Canada, Fiji, Argentina, Australia. Yeah, it's quite an impressive melting pot of folks from all over the world playing the game. And so it's. And without getting into Super Rugby, I don't want to say the demise of Super Rugby. I don't know where Super Rugby is going now, but I wonder if what's been happening in Super Rugby even before COVID, I mean, the overexpansion and then the contraction, what's happening now, that sort of breaking apart of Super Rugby, are a lot of players potentially going to be available who would have been spending time playing Super Rugby. Maybe they could be available for playing in Major League Rugby. We already get a lot of, there's a lot of big names that have come here, and it's not people who are just past it. I mean, it's people who are still in their prime. I mean, Ben Foden is still an amazing player. Bostro is here. JP Peterson for the Legion does an amazing job for them. The list goes on and on. So do you think that maybe we might see some more folks? Because I saw this past week that Adam Ashley Cooper signed with LA. I fell out of my chair when I read that. He's not exactly past it. He's still got something under the hood there. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, there's like, even if you think LA have signed the two Smith brothers, they both played Super Rugby down, and I think they were at the Reds down in New Zealand, Australia. Great signings. I think they're going to have all of us, all the other teams is going to play against them. We're going to have our hands full just to keep those two boys tamed. So there's definitely there's big names coming in, and like you said, with the Super Rugby that's a little bit losing their ways. There's definitely going to get more guys, more players going to be available. I must say, and it's not just for us, it's across the board. The visa process is a little bit of a headache at the moment for us. But I think also the more the league get, I would say, renowned, and the league get more familiar in American rugby and under the American fans, hopefully the visa process will also go a little bit more smooth. But at the end of the day, we want to get quality players here, but we also want to uplift the local guys. We need to give the local American players that chance to uplift their game. And I think with the MLR and with we have a fair amount of Canadians coming into the country. This is a good competition to lift the Canada players as well. And I think the more Canadian guys can play in this league, that will lift Canada's rugby as well as from an international point of view. So
I think it's a great point. Canada, it traditionally had been the top America's team for a long time, and the last few seasons sort of dropped down a bit. The Eagles came up there, had a great season 2 years ago, and last year not so great in the World Cup. Last year being 2019, 2020 doesn't count. There wasn't a test, but 2018 was an amazing season for the Eagles, and Canada kind of went like this. They didn't get the Americas 1 or the Americas 2 qualification. They had to go through the repage and win that tournament. It was USA and Uruguay. So yeah, I think that's a good point. There's a lot of talented people up in Canada who can play the game as well. So as we go forward, you talked about development of the game, and that's been an argument I've been making for a long time. There are people in the country before Major League Rugby came along that were focused on youth rugby. We've had it going on for a while. We've got play rugby and girls rugby and some other organizations, and it's taking place and root in certain parts around the country. But it's not like these other sports like baseball, basketball, football, which are just ubiquitous. And I think that's the key. We've really got to get that grassroots, because we have amazing players. I mean, you look at Sevens, look at Perry Baker. He's unbelievable. Two-time World Player of the Year, unbelievable. And he never walked on a rugby pitch until after he got cut by the Eagles. And he's top player in the world twice in a row. And our 15 teams, we got guys that have left football, same sort of thing. So it is an interesting phenomenon. But as far as youth rugby, are the Seawolves involved in promoting youth rugby or doing things in the Seattle area that kind of help grow the game?
Yeah, I think definitely. So with Shalom Sinihula here, Shalom and Matt Turner, they have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy over the last couple of years helping out with youth rugby development. I know the Seattle Rugby Club, previously known as Seattle Saracens, they also do a lot of work in youth rugby development. So they definitely, and just from their history, Seattle Saracens is one of probably the most successful clubs in the country, just providing good quality players for MLR. So there's definitely the behind the scenes, there's a lot of work, but I think why it takes so long for us to see the results is that people outside of America, and that's me included, we don't have an idea how big this country is. It's just logistically to go for a youth rugby team to go and find proper competition. Say you want to go and play in New York, it's a 6-hour flight to get there. And that makes it's expensive. And although there's these pockets, like you say, all over the country where there's all this development is happening, because we don't have all the money and all the resources at the moment, really to grow the game to the tempo like where it was growing in South Africa or any of the other smaller country like Scotland or England or Ireland, there you can drive 2 hours and you're on the other side of the country. Here, you drive 2 hours, you're not even on the other side of the mountains. And for me personally, like the first time I came to America, I didn't realize, because we look at the world map and we see, okay, there's America and there's a couple of states in there, and we think, oh no, it's a big country, but we don't have an idea how big this country is, and logistically. But just for us now, playing with my third season, traveling for us, if we fly to New York at 6.5 hours, you lose a day of just traveling. There's 3 hours time zone change for you from the east to the west. So, and a lot of people don't understand it. It's if you play Super Rugby, you will go to New Zealand and Australia for 4 weeks, and you will go and stay that side, and you'll travel, and you have like the first week you get your time zones, all that sorted out, but then you will stay there for 3 weeks. Over here, you literally fly every weekend to New Zealand. We fly every weekend to Australia. So
no,
that's what makes it.
It's funny you mention that, because I mean, I've listened to the argument with one of the problems with Super Rugby is because you have all the travel and all the. I'm like, wait a second. You fly from South Africa, you go to New Zealand for a month. You get there a week ahead of time. How much time? Look, I was in the Army, man. We fly and go to combat the next hour when we arrive after 18 hours on a plane. But no, but seriously, it's so you go, you have the time to adjust, to acclimate. You spend the whole time. It's in a small area. But like you said, major league sports in this country, you're in LA today, tomorrow you're in Utah, the next day you're in New England. And you transition if it's a weekly game, one thing, but I mean, like the hockey and the basketball, they play 2 or 3 times a week. That can be exhausting. And so when people are telling me that, it's such a tough thing in Super Rugby, I said, when they added Argentina, I got that. Okay. Cause now it's just, you got to go over it, but I'm like, suck it up, Buttercup. It's not that big a deal. Try flying around America.
Even if you have to have 1 or 2 layovers, because there's not always direct flights. If there's for one or other a layover, you stay 2 or 3 hours on an airport in the middle of nowhere, and then you have to take a connection flight. Then it becomes like literally your whole day is gone. So no, it's definitely there's but I'm strongly, there's enough money in sport in America to make rugby successful. And there's enough talent in this country to make America in the future. I definitely believe it. And I know we rugby players and rugby coaches and the rugby community will not let go. We need to just keep on pushing this. America can be easily one of the top 10 countries in the world. Easily. They can be easily under the top 10 countries in the world.
I agree, hands down. And we were already a top 12 in 2018. We reached the top 12 for the first time. I think we could clearly be one of the top 10. And when Super Rugby was expanding, one of my arguments, which is a difficult one to make, but I was like, why not put a team in Hawaii or in the West Coast somewhere, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I know there's a travel issue here, but seriously, I mean, that's the thing is, whether people like it or not, this is the most lucrative broadcasting market on the planet. And the money's there. You just got to get the eyeballs, and the game is that awesome. Anybody to watch. I mean, look, we drew 80,000 people to Soldier Field to watch the All Blacks play. The All Blacks. I hate the All Blacks. No. Okay, so let's look over your schedule here. I'm just looking at the schedule here, and I'm not going to make any predictions because I haven't been out to see any of your practices or if your players are practicing. But let's see. So March 20th, you've got the Sabercats. You go to Houston, and it's not July, so it won't be definite because Houston's also one of those miserably hot places and humid in the summer. I think you got that one. You don't have to comment on these. I'm making predictions here. March 28th, you play LA. I'm not sure how that's going to work. If we can keep Adam Ashley Cooper from getting his visa, I think you've got that one pretty straight. So, and then April 10th, you've got Utah at Utah. I think you've got that one. And then you go to Toronto on April 17th. I think that might be a challenge for your boys. That's going to be tough. Toronto. I think they will probably be one of the top 4 teams in the competition. They kept a lot of their old players, a lot of them Canadian. The only bad thing for Toronto is not going to play in Canada this whole season. So they're going to play in LA. So they're going to literally be on the road for 16 weeks. So they're never going to be at home. So, but that can also be a good thing. If you think a couple of years ago with the earthquake disaster that happened to Crusaders and how it bonded that team. So, and for these guys, and sometimes it's good for rugby players. Like I said, you need to be a family. Now there's internals. We have different personalities, so there's going to be internal stuffs. But if the team selection was good and the coaching, and they can keep the guys working together, they can become such a strong team traveling for 16 weeks on the road. Toronto is going to be a real threat this year. I definitely think Toronto is definitely going to be a really good team. No, I agree. And them playing on the road, like you say, you mentioned the Crusaders, that's going after the earthquake there in Christchurch. What happened with that team kind of bonded in a way that wasn't really expected or people anticipated. And then they just dominated. They just dominate after. It's amazing. Then you've got Austin on the 25th of April. I think you could take that one, but then things get tough for you, Coach. I'm just predicting here. You got to have the boys ready by May, because come May, it's on for real. It's like on like junior rodeo. You got Rooney at home. That's your first home game. Yeah. Then you've got the San Diego Legion. That's at home, fortunately. Yeah. So your fans will be there. Then you come to DC, and that's I'll see you there on the 16th of May, unless they lock us down for COVID, and maybe we get a chance to do an interview on the spot when you're in DC that day. And then you've got Atlanta. Atlanta looked a lot better than I expected last year. So that's a tough month. May's going to be a tough one for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, like Rooney got high level players. They're always a tough team. Obviously, Atlanta got Scott there, brilliant coach, probably one of the better coaches in the competition. And then even DC, I think they got between DC and New England, facility-wise, and Houston as well, great facilities. They got really great facilities. So that all those things add up to a team success. So the month of May, but not just the month of May, 6 weeks on the road, and then the month of May, it doesn't make it easy. So there's not going to be one easy game for us. Unfortunately, there's not. Everyone wants to win. Yeah. Seattle, because we're the current champions still. So, and that's just, we have to pick ourselves up every week after week.
So a quick question before we close out here. I want to get to this. Do you get much opportunity to get home? I mean, obviously it won't be on Air Namibia. They're in liquidation, and it's not on South African Airways because despite lifelines from the ANC, they're in liquidation. And besides, Joe Biden says we can't go to South Africa, so I don't know how you get home. But before all this COVID stuff, and well, I mean, you hadn't been here that long, but have you had much chance to get back to Namibia? And is it? I mean, you've been abroad a lot of your career. I mean, is it a place you get too much, or is it just like every few years?
No. I try because I still got kids back in South Africa, so I try to go at least once a year. With COVID, it's a little bit more difficult, obviously, but I had the opportunity to go back in December, and just before the big, I would say the South African version or the COVID stuff came out, we were back in the country because I had to start working in January. So I went back home for a month in December. And it's amazing. Like it's home will stay home forever. The meat tastes different, the fire smoke smells different, and just mom's rusks is the best in the world. So yeah, definitely. So no, I'll definitely keep going home when I get the opportunity. So Namibia, and there's no better beer than Windhoek Lager. So
yes, okay. I think for the viewers, just to let you in a little secret here, I let Kees know ahead of time that I'm a bit of a beer snob. If it's not brewed by the Reinheitsgebot, I don't drink it. I'm sorry. And of course, Windhoek Lager is brewed by the Reinheitsgebot. I'm a major fan. When I lived in Botswana, that was available. That was when South African breweries was trying to prevent it from being imported into South Africa, if you remember that. But there was no such problem in Botswana. We were happy to buy Windhoek Lager. So the only problem is that they sent us the thinner bottles. You had to be careful. You couldn't send them down very hard. They'd smash.
Yeah, no, I must say, and again, like it's not just because I'm a Namibian, but definitely one of the better beers around. Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So listen, I'd love to keep you all night, but you've got things to do and you've got to get that team ready for a season upcoming. Like I said, hopefully we can link up when you come to DC. I'll be covering that game and touch base then. But before we go, is there anything you'd like to share with folks? I don't know, about rugby, maybe hope over COVID, about the Seawolves, anything you want to share just for the audience?
No, for me, it's just thanks a lot for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I just want the people out there to come and watch the game, especially apparently American people. Come and watch the game, look at the game, learn the rules. I know there's a lot of rules that you're not familiar with the game, but we definitely, I promise you will enjoy the game. And it's a fun game and it's a family game. We're really tough on the field, but we probably one of the most disciplined guys also off the field. So I know there's in America, and that's something that I caught up when I got here. There was a bit of a bad stigma about rugby in America in the old days, where the rugby players was a little bit not so well behaved, I would say, off the field afterwards. But I think that with the professionalism coming in, it's definitely changing. And yeah, I just want, especially for the Seattle fans out there, we're definitely looking forward for our first home game, and hopefully we can get all of you in the stand by then. And I'm going to, from my side, and I know from the team's side, we're going to do our best to bring number 3 home. That's our goal for this season. It's not going to be easy. We know that, but we're working really hard, and we want to make it 3 in a row for us. Yeah, it's not just for us, but also for the fans. Yeah,
I was going to say that sounds like a line in the sand there. So I watch out, Major League Rugby. Seattle is ready for season number 4. Wow. Well, but I must say, before you go, Kees, I must say that, it's good that you get back home because a braai is not a braai in Seattle. That's all I got to say. And there's no biltong there, so it's just not going to work out.
we have a place down here. There's a lady from Port Elizabeth that's been in Seattle now for 15 years, and she makes some biltong.
Oh.
And it tastes pretty nice. It's not far from the real thing. So we and some of the players, I must say, JP Smith and Richard Hatting and the boys, they got their biltong, their little where they prepare their own biltong, and the boys are making biltong. It's not.
Oh, okay, they're making it.
It's not as frequent available as we wanted it, but it's definitely available. They get the spices in the country, and it tastes very similar. Yeah. So
now there's some Oaks in Virginia, South African kids of South Africans who have grown up here who make some. It's okay. It's not quite the same, but I got to digress before you go because I got to tell you the story real quick. So with the biltong story. So it's great that they're making it. I thought you were going to tell me they brought it with them from South Africa, and I was going to go like this because I went to the Rugby World Cup in 2011 in New Zealand, and I was stationed in Germany. I flew through South Africa, and I had bought a brand new pair of hiking boots just for New Zealand, right? Untouched. They were still in the little wrapping, and I put them in my suitcase. I went to South Africa, Botswana, then I continued on over to New Zealand. I get there, and it's the night that Ireland defeated. Who did they defeat? Somebody 15-6 that night. But anyway, it was Australia. Anyway, whatever. It was a big deal. I think Ireland beat Australia 15-6, and then the New Zealanders were cheering in the airport. So you go through, because you've been in New Zealand, you go through immigration, and they don't care if you got firearms and grenades and stuff like that. They just want to know if you have agricultural spores and things like that. So they basically give me a body cavity search when they ask me, do you have any other shoes? I'm like, yeah, I have a pair of hiking boots. Hiking boots. Open up your suitcase. I open them up. I'm like, but they're brand new. Let us see them. And they're looking them over, and I'm like, you could smell the rubber. They're brand new. And finally, they put them down. I walked out, and I was like, 20 minutes of them going through my suitcase. I walk out. I go get my hire car. I got a SIM card stuck into my BlackBerry because it was still BlackBerry back then. And I get ready to roll out. And then I leave, and they gave me some paperwork about what you're allowed to bring in the country. I go find a hotel room, and I'm leafing through it because I can't sleep because it's after midnight, and I'm on Europe time and Africa time. And it says you can't bring agricultural products in like biltong from South Africa. And I had a whole suitcase full of biltong. I literally had bags and bags and bags of biltong I picked up in South Africa just so it last me through the World Cup. And all they wanted to see was my shoes, but they didn't care about. If they'd have seen the biltong, I'd probably still be in jail in New Zealand.
Probably it would have been a lot of trouble. Yeah. I had similar, but I wasn't that lucky when I came into New York maybe 2-3 years ago, and I usually have my hat on when I'm traveling, and I think the person there at customs, he realized, hey, this guy is coming from a safari, and he took my bag through, and my mom made me a box of rusks, and the rusk was fine. They didn't even open it, but I had vacuum packed it like 2 pounds maybe, or 2 kilograms of biltong, and I had to give it up. I was so sad. I was so sad to give the biltong away.
That's terrible. Yeah. It looks like a few people just popped in on us here real quick. If I can ask another question of one of my viewers real quick. She's from South Africa, and she lives in Pennsylvania. Jessica's her name. And she said, do people understand your accent in the States, Kees? She has issues with her accent.
Yeah, no, that's a big challenge. It's the first place where it's a massive challenge if you speak with these phone recognition when you phone in to make an appointment. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like, I have to give the phone to my wife, and I said to her, listen, these people don't understand me. I just want to make an appointment, and and it just doesn't work. So that's a no for me. As soon as you pick up and there's a computer on the other side, I give the phone to my wife. If she's not awake, I just push it down, because there's no ways I get help from them. So no, the accent is definitely a bit of a challenge. And yeah, like, I have a funny story about one of my wife's friends where I was talking about hot dogs, and I was telling this whole story, and they said to me, "What are you talking about?" I was busy probably for 5-6 minutes in the story. I said hot dogs, and they said, "What did?" I said hot dogs, and they didn't understand. Like, you guys in America pronounce it somewhere different, like a hot dog. I don't know how they say it.
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs. Hot dogs. In Namibia we say hot dogs, like it's a hot dog. And they had no idea about what I was talking about. And I just say, it's hot dogs, like, it's hot dogs. So,
the thing about it is English is not English is not English. The first time I was in South Africa, I'm driving in my car in a hire in Joburg, and I'm driving along, and it's painted on the street. It says robot ahead. And I'm like, R2D2? Robot? We're still robots out here. And it's nobody else in the world says robot. I mean, English don't say robot. They say traffic light, just like we do. It's weird because, English is not English is not English. The easy thing for me, though, is because I lived in so many places. And so I kind of adapted. So like when I'm in the UK, I don't say in the hospital. I say in hospital because apparently the English can't afford the that's too expensive. So it's just in hospital, so, but funny, you should mention accents because Giselle, who's from Grootfontein, she's a singer and she's in South Africa now, but she's from there. When I introduced her to a lot of people, now a lot of people heard of her because you probably know the song Sight Vest.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. She's a friend of mine, and she comes on the program a lot. So she became known for Sight Vest, but a lot of people don't know who she is because they just know that song. So I started promoting her music, and I had a concert with her on. She did her album Fit Ons Mensa. That was her first Afrikaans album last year. So she did the lot. Instead, she had a concert tour in South Africa, Namibia, and the U.S. canceled because of COVID. And they're like, what are we going to do? Let's just do the concert online. So they did it, and I carried it on my channel. And all these people came and chat. She's like, she's not from South Africa. She's maybe the Northern Cape, but she sounds like she's from Namibia. I mean, it's just it's a dead giveaway, is it not? When the Afrikaans, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, I know if you Afrikaans speaking people in Namibia or in South Africa will immediately tell you, because we have a little bit of some it's not a dialect, but we have some sayings that's only Namibian people use that type of word choice. So no, it's definitely some days a challenge. You can imagine if it's a challenge in America, that's an English speaking country, you can imagine the challenge that I had in Japan, where I had to work through a translator. That was very, very tough. That was unbelievably tough. So, but hopefully another day we can talk about more of the challenges down that side.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get to that another time. Like I said, when you get to DC, hopefully I'll get a chance to chat with you, do an interview with you there, even if it's a brief one. And best of luck on the 2021 season. Listen, I'm sure you're excited. I mean, as a journalist who covers the game and as a fan, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. And I can wait till March 20th, but I can't wait because Major League Rugby will be back.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot again for this opportunity. And and we're very excited. We're all ready to go and just want to get COVID out of the way.
Yeah, this COVID's like the uncle that you don't ever want to meet. Just go away. He's like the uncle that gets drunk and is touching everybody and coughing on everybody at the party. It's just really bad. I'm sure that Jan Spies would probably have a good stick to say about that if he were still around. But I can't do that in Afrikaans, so I'll pass on that one. But okay, thanks a lot, Kees. It's a pleasure having you on, and it's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks a lot.
No, thanks a lot, Chris. And thanks a lot for all the people that's listening to the show. And let's keep let this grow, and let's keep rugby grow. Okay, thank you.
Bye, Donkey. I'll catch you later.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'll let him check out there, and then I'll wrap up the session right here. Folks, that was Kees Lensing, who's the head coach of the Seattle Seawolves rugby team in Major League Rugby. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. My apologies for the alternate platform. If we are back to normal next week, it'll be back on YouTube. In the meantime, it'll be here on Facebook, on Rumble, and also on Odyssey. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Kees didn't even hesitate when I asked him to come on. He's like, I'm there. And we got him on. We had a little snafu with scheduling early in the week, but we got it sorted out. And I know it's an odd time for people in South Africa. So most of the people in South Africa and Namibia will see this tomorrow. But the folks who were able to tune in from the States tonight, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your support for Chris Wyatt Africa right here on Indaba Africa. There you go. So anyway, I guess we're going to wrap it up there. Major League Rugby starts its 4th season on March 20th here in the United States, folks. Lots of big names. As I mentioned, Adam Ashley Cooper is signed with Los Angeles. Wow. We've still got Ben Foden in New York and a lot of other big names like JP Peterson playing for San Diego and a lot of others, including U.S. players, well-known U.S. players like Dylan Fawcett and Hanko Hammershøi. Plenty of folks out there. So folks, please tune in for Major League Rugby. It's on television. Go to the venues if you can get a ticket because there's going to be some limited seating because of the COVID until it's resolved. But thank you so much for your support. And I'm going to close it out right here. God bless. And we'll catch you tomorrow here on this platform, Facebook for now, And thanks a lot for your support, everybody. Appreciate it. Give us a like and or a rumble or a flame on Odyssey, whatever it takes to promote this stuff. And once again, my thanks. Bye donkey to Kees Lensing. It was a pleasure to have you on. It's great getting to know you on here, and we look forward to a successful season for Seattle. Even if they win again, I'll cheer for you if you win, even though I'm a Rooney fan. Rugby night in New York. All right, that's it, folks. God bless and have a good night.